Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Today, I'd like to call to order the May 13th, 2025 Personnel Committee meeting. Mary, can we have a roll call? First, I'll read the minutes
Perfect.
first, and then we can have a roll call. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon advance request. If you'd like to, like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is posted in this meeting room and is available on the Elm Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you. And thank you, Mary. And we have a roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Stephen Santusonio,
Present?
Lee Hartman,
Present.
Becky Coletta,
Present.
and then for staff, we have Brenda Robeson, Megan Fournier, and Charles Kilmer.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Okay.
Stephen.
Thank you, Mary. And I think we want to jump to item 2 you mentioned, Mary, for the February 2025 meeting minutes.
Yes, if Megan, if you can just, I think a motion is needed to accept
Okay,
and then
sure.
to second.
Can I have a motion to accept the February 2025 meeting minutes?
So
Lee
moved.
Hartman.
Oh,
Hartman,
thank you.
second.
Thank you.
Roll call,
And-
Stephen Santusonio,
Accept?
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
Becky Coletta.
Accept.
And Mr. Chair, as we talked just previous before recording, I'm going to respectfully request if we can just take item 4 before
Sure.
item.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so we'd like to review the proposed suggestions from staff.
So as we've continued, since we were talking again about other, as we head into the end of the fiscal year and preparing for evaluations and merit increases, we really thought this would be another time while there was a couple items in the personnel handbook parking lot for us to take up. So the first one was when someone, the performance reviews with salary increases, they asked for if this could be done before open enrollment, as it would be helpful for the staff to budget in selecting the right coverage. My response is that no, while we understand the question, but the timing doesn't work with our fiscal year for us to move that forward. I feel comfortable with this decision, but I wanted to bring this before this committee with my recommendation. Again, enrollment for employees is from April 1st to May 1st. As you know, we're right smack in the middle of budget and still is the opportunity for us to make any adjustments along the way. So the answer is no, and wherever that staff may be, I'll get back to them. I don't know if there's any questions from members
I've
about
never
that.
worked at a place where it's been like that. It's like, right, like open enrollment for me is in the fall, and if I get an increase, it's usually February, March. So it's never.
And again, it's conversations that managers will have with staff and, try to be resilient where we can. The second item is, could we consider partially subsidizing public transportation costs now that the South Coast Rail is active? And partially subsidize public transportation. So the verbiage within the parking stipend, if you remember, this really came about because of public safety around our building. Folks were parking at a cheaper place at the gas station, and it really wasn't safe, and it was more sometimes economics for some of the folks. So we put this language with this personnel committee and the finance committee approving. So my answer is that no, we're not going to be subsidizing the transportation. The OCPC does cover $20 a month for the parking pass for staffing members. And again, in this case, while, we chatted yesterday about this, reducing the carbon footprint, but yet actually the bullet points underneath that Megan captured for us, the parking program was for the safety, but also because we're hybrid work, we already reduced the carbon footprint with only staff being, in the office twice a week. So again, I know that there's probably only 2, maybe 3 staff members, and I'll have some conversation with them about, thanking them for the suggestion and unfortunately, at this point, as you can also see, we currently subsidize 17 employees at an amount for an annual $9,000 a year. And for me, it keeps our employees, for those that drive in, safe and happy. And now that the cameras and security and lighting has become better at the, so that's the parking issue. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody has. So the third piece is that at times we work outside our regular hours, and the flex time, again, we've had lots of conversations at this committee. I know Lee and you have had some input into this as well. What Megan put up here is the verbiage that we have in our work plan. So basically, this is a conversation that managers, I think if you scroll down, Megan, the bullet points that we have. Yeah, as salary employees, we're not allowed to provide comp time. Specifically, the employee asks for comp time. We're salaried, there's no comp time. But if working during flex hours schedule, employees should work with their manager to amend their hours. That has been the MO that we've been following. It really, it has worked. I think this might be either a new employee or might be someone that we can just further have a conversation with the manager and myself. We do have open discussion during managers' meetings and staff retreats for all handbook items. So just wanted to bring that up to you. Again, work gets done. Try to make sure that our staff don't feel that they have to put in 100 hours, but certainly don't want them to come back and say, hey, I worked 15 minutes over. Like, just, it's all part of it's again, a conversation that we have. So I'm not suggesting any changes to the employee handbook at this point. Questions? So while we were talking about all those handbook issues, in the meantime, we've had with the GIC and the benefits and memberships, it just needs to be updated in the personnel handbook. This one would require some action, or it just needs updating. So I'm trying to think if we had, sorry, did we have example language in here? Basically, interns and temporary, when we do consider them to be temporary versus permanent, there's part-time prior to the end of probationary period. So it's like 90 days. I think the way that we walked away with yesterday is that we have to have an internal check point of saying that they're coming up to their 90 days to determine whether they pay into the GIC. Correct me, Brenda, or somebody?
Sure.
Is that correct, what we were talking about?
That's right. And I think the reason why we didn't create new wording is I think we already technically had it in there. We just need to actually, or maybe that was the retirement one. Charlie, you have a better memory than I do.
Yeah, there was a question whether or not, since we don't participate in Social Security, whether it was mandatory for a staff member to contribute to state retirement as a member. I looked online afterwards. I don't think you have to do it, but.
So for the council member, thank you, Charlie and Megan. I think what I'd like to do for these two at this point, it came up, I don't think that we quite properly vetted this with specific language for you for today, but just know that it's come up. So the GIC benefits and when someone pays into it or not, when they become eligible or not, is one piece. And then it's the retirement rules for employees. So the onus is on both the employee, to monitor the number of hours, but also the rate of pay. This is when one retires and then they come back. That's the second bullet. So if I could, just for clarity, let me take both of these bullet points and let's take that up the next time this personnel committee meets.
And
Mary?
Yep.
I'm going to check into all those things that, I'm going to contact the GIC, Harper's, and then research it because it's obviously an important thing to, and get a definite answer on that.
It is. I think it's a timing, just because we have the board personnel committee, we don't have specific language for them today. So I'm going to recommend that we just park it ourselves for this committee until we get further research. And most likely just because we are, if need be, when we have that information, to call a second personnel committee if we need so.
Mary, I had a question, if I may. Are you there?
Yes, yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry I came in late a little bit. On the overtime or the comp time, do we have a limit of how much that they can accumulate, and can they carry it over to the next year?
No, so the answer is no on carrying it over to the next year, and there is no specific limit. What I will say is that there is a general rule of thumb that if you are putting in extra hours, like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, try to use it before the end of the week.
Okay.
So not to be, because then it becomes managing of, well, I worked 14 hours that week of blah, blah, blah. And then now it's the manager to say, did you, and where did you do that? So it is,
Right.
there is no limit. We don't put any hours. I will tell you that the people on this call right here all put in
Yeah.
a zillion hours, and I've never really hear much in terms of, hey, give me some comp time back. Again, they're unique in so many different ways.
Right.
So I think if we start putting hours to that, becomes managing that. But they have vacation time, they have sick time, that accumulate at a particular rate per month. So to answer your question, Sandy, nope, we don't carry it over to another fiscal year. And quite frankly, we managers know not to try to carry over flex time.
Yep.
Way too long. It's really it's management. They have other things they're working on themselves, right? So we don't want to
Yep.
make that they're.
Oh, just a question, just thought, I just had a question about it.
Great. Thank
I'm
you.
not questioning it, because I know that they're worth every bit of it, but I
It's
just
a
wanted
good
to know
question. Nope, thank you.
Mary, is the comp time basically, is it something like, it has to be like, say if Charlie says, I want one of his direct reports to get something out like soon, and that's gonna require an extra couple hours overtime versus the employees just not as fast as someone else. Like,
So-
how do you look at that?
Good question, Stephen. So like this weekend, 3 staff members were at the bike event in Plymouth, right? So that was set up at 9 o'clock and, was over at 2 o'clock. Their conversation with Charlie is, here's what we did. Sure, we had a couple beers while we're at the event too, but it's a conversation, and it really is a conversation with the managers and staff. So it is not, we treat the employees as adults. We don't see abuse of it. Certainly it's, when one works remote, it's kind of hard to monitor, like when they clock on and when they clock off, as opposed to seeing someone in the office. But it doesn't happen too often. I would say, like in the comprehensive planning, where they have night meetings for master plans, and Jason DeRoche last night was in East Bridgewater on the MBTA vote at the town meeting. That's worked out between Jason and Lori Muncy. And but in the end, most people don't really take it. It sort of says it's part of the job. We've not seen really any abuse of that.
Okay, thanks.
Does that help? I don't know if there's any other questions. I know it becomes unique to different organizations, and but in this case, because we are a growing group and we're more active out in the communities, whether it's a traffic count or doing things on the weekend, it's a conversation that managers, are able to have that flexibility to keep, number one, employees from not being overly overburdened, but as well as to see the work get done.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, though, Stephen. So on the GIC benefit rules for membership and the retirement rules for employees, we just wanted to raise that. These have come up within, since we have people retiring, then coming back to work for us, there's been some discussions, right? So on the second bullet with the retirees is, there shouldn't necessarily be an assumption that when one leaves the organization and comes back, that they're always going to be at the same rate of pay. But it has to be a discussion between the employer and the employee to mutually decide upon the terms of their coming back. The employee has a limit of how many hours and how much they can make, and the onus is on them. But the rate of pay, right now it's silent, and since we've had, it was first Ray Garino and now it's Lila Burgess. It just made me kind of look back to say if there's really nothing in the handbook, and we want to make sure the flexibility of having a decision to decide whether what rate of pay, and that it's not assumed that they're going to stay at that rate of pay. Okay. So we're going to park those for the next time. And then the others that it says do not vote, we had talked about this, but I wanted just to fully close the circle. So there was a question that we had a green team. The green team still is in place, but there was continuing discussions about, continuing discussion on longevity and reformation of the personnel committee. We just want to make sure, I started off this meeting by saying it was Frank Staffier who created the longevity for staff on a 5-year basis. We just want to affirm that this is something that this committee would like to still go forward. We have it in the budget. It's been planned. I just wanted to, is this something that you want us to bring back every year based upon budget? Or based upon our fiscal responsibility, we'll keep it in there as long as we're able to afford it.
I would say keep it in there. It's a good, I think it's a nice gesture. It's only once every 5 years. So.
Correct. I would recommend that we stay. I just wanted to bring that up today. There was never like really any kind of, I think it's just a part of our process, right? If we don't have the funding but if we don't have funding for, I think Brenda, you said in like 3 years, we're going to have a large number of folks who are going to have longevity. And we'll keep that, some of the questions that Sandy has raised in terms of our projection. When we get to those years, we will flag that for not only this committee, but we'll flag it for the finance committee.
Can I just,
How would you
one
ever-
thing? Oh,
how would
sorry,
you ever
Lee,
take-
go ahead.
How would you ever take a benefit away? I mean, I'm not too sure. I mean, I know most of what I do is union environment, and that would be a real problem. But even in a non-union environment, I would compare it to anything else that if there's a funding issue, it probably comes somewhere else than it does to remove a benefit without somehow negotiating that.
So
I
you're
I
right.
would, I
Go
would
ahead.
agree, because I think that when you promise someone a 5-year longevity and they're at year 3 and they stay and maybe, think they're only 2 years away, I don't think you can really take it away from them because they've been working towards it. I
Right.
would like that we make it a permanent benefit and it only gets removed, in sort of some sort of dire emergency. But I would almost think that you'd do pay cuts before you would remove a benefit that's based on a promise made over time.
I mean,
And
it wouldn't even be a pay cut. I think it would be a reduction in hours more than
Yeah.
a pay cut.
Yeah.
That would make sense, yeah.
Or even
I know Brenda
reducing
has her hand
annual raises too.
Right.
Mhm.
I will supply a list of, I have longevity, people written out over like the next 10 years. I will make a list so everyone can see when the longevities are going to come up for people. Because what's going to happen is they're all going to be in a clump because of the people that are hired that are newer. But in any event, I'll supply a list. And I won't be able to put the numbers in because obviously it's dependent on what the current salary is, which changes. But I
Let
can
me
at least supply
Let me
it.
recommend this, Brenda, just because most of the folks, I think all of you are on the finance committee. Let's just have this as an agenda item for the finance, and you can bring that chart up just so it's
Yeah.
expected. To the point of that both Lee and Becky had mentioned, my suggestion was not to necessarily take it away at all, because it is seen as a incentive for staff to stay, right? Keeping staff is such a hard thing for any organization, private or public. I think it was again silent in terms of how this is affirmed each year, but it's, again, Brenda has it included in this FY26 budget, and it was included in the projections that we had at the finance committee. So I will, we'll have this just as an agenda item so Brenda can bring it up, just to show the 10-year basis where we are financially. And to the point that being made, there are other ways to support this benefit, this incentive, than to didn't to eliminate it. So, thank you.
Sarah,
And-
I have a question on that. Would that have to go through the union?
We have no union.
Okay, so none of them under union, and so if they were full-time and then went, let's say you cut down their hours, then you'd be cutting pretty much out their benefits.
Well, yes
I
and
correct?
no. It talks about the number of years. It doesn't say the number of hours they work. Its longevity is the number of years.
Okay, okay. All
It's
right,
really a timing issue, right? It's at year 5, you went from full-time to part-time. Your bonus is based on that, I think, that year's salary. So if you happen to go down 20% in salary, then that's what your 3% is based off of, just all timing.
It's timing. So, again, we could have a little bit deeper, but you'll see the chart for the finance committee, and to the point, not taking away the benefit, but yet, working ways that we're able to support that. It is seen. Andrew Vidal is celebrating 15 years. The email was sent, he came right over to me and just said, Mary, this is great, thank you. So I'm saying thank you to this committee because it came from this committee as an incentive. It does make a difference as small, I'll say his was like $2,300, right? Before taxes. But it does mean, it just says thank you, and it's appreciated by staff. So, I'll go on to the green team. There were some ideas about having it be, having some language be part of the handbook. We're not going to do that. The green team and its initiatives is going to be separately out of our handbook. So that's just wanted to let you know that we've completed that. It's not going to make any changes to the employee handbook. And then there was a question about charitable community service work. So how are we defining time used? Do we cap the number of hours? Basically, we're basing this on whatever one does needs to be, what needs a prior approval from the manager. And I believe that language has always been something that we have focused on. We've had one instance that, a staff member without talking with manager came and then did their thing and then left to go home and didn't know about it, and then they put it in, and then it's so it's just conversation again, bottom line through any of our employee handbook discussions. So nothing at this point, but there's lots of things that we do. We do a cleanup and there's giving blood and brown bag. Most of those are not day-long events. Most of them are an hour here, an hour there, and pretty much it never really becomes much of an issue. But just want to let you know that was resolved, and we'll continue to have dialogue with staff.
So
that's-
is it language of OCP supported charitable organization? I mean, my only concern gets to be that if all of a sudden I'm doing something for a religious organization or something else, I'm wondering if it's just, I don't know. And maybe you don't worry about it, but.
You raise a question. I don't think that we do define what that is, Lee. Most.
And maybe that's not even a problem, but.
Well, but this is outright that I've always been told either by Lisa O'Donnell, who's been the consultant for us, or by Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, Lehane. The handbook is our management, right? So let us talk about that internally. That if there's
And here's my concern, just so we give money out, and this is totally unrelated, but this is a good example. We give money out through the Visitor Services Board to support tourism in the town.
Right.
Every once in a while, a church group will come in and ask for funds. My concern is not that request. It's if there happens to be another one for totally legitimate reasons that we say no to. So we've approved money for one group, but said no to another group. Even if we have a good basis for that, I think we open ourselves up to something. So again, just as you think about what might be charitable, and once you do one, and again, even if it's a total good reason to say no, and somebody says, well, you did it for the synagogue, but now you won't do it for the Catholic Church.
It's a fair question to be asked, so thank you. I think the only one that really is on a consistent basis has been the brown bag.
Yeah,
And
and
that,
again, I think if you called that like OCP supported, it's an
Yeah.
OCPC event, you're
Yes.
okay. If you're okay with a townwide cleanup as being, something that you consider that sponsored, giving blood. So maybe if it has something that is
Mhm.
done by the council, that gives you some level of coverage.
Thank you.
And again, maybe I'm just overly paranoid.
Well, it's good food for thought anyway. I think that's the point of having these things be vetted by you and, Sandy and Becky and Stephen is it's getting that different perspective. We've looked at this quite a few times and it's, to be honest with you, it's not used very often because staff is so busy doing their jobs and trying to find time to take the day off to do something. So thank you. That's helpful.
And I think sometimes the approach is you do it until there's a problem, then you say if it becomes a problem, then you just say, okay, we can't do that anymore.
But
But
we'll monitor that. At this point, it's not it's only been one, but that really was a miscommunication of a staff member, but what they expected. So we've tightened that up. So I think that's it, Megan, correct? Oops. Oh, I missed you. Were you able to, is that it, Megan? Oh, I couldn't hear you for some reason. Does anybody else have any issues hearing Megan?
I
Yeah.
can't hear it, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
can
we
hear.
can, I don't know why.
Mary, I have a question, and this is not related to anything of this, but where I saw in the Boston Globe over the weekend about GIC not having enough money. Do you know anything about that? Can you enlighten us or enlighten me on what's going on there? Because I think that, I don't possibly see how that could happen, but it would affect so many people.
So I do have some information. So as soon as it hit, I had about 3, 4, maybe 10 emails from folks and text about it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's coming from the Globe, but so I receive the retiree newsletter, and they addressed it that they've been aware of this, and it's they don't see it as being an alarmist, and that it did cause some folks to just kind of, hey, what's going on? I've got to look back at my text message, but it was, I sent a, I will tell you 1 second because it's in my,
Because you're under the GIC, correct?
we are.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
Yes.
so,
But basically
I
there's,
do see on Monday, there was an article on Monday about a bill that they're advancing to cover the GIC money.
In the
yes,
supplemental governor's budget,
Yeah.
it's already been passed by the House. They're waiting on the Senate to do something with it.
okay.
It was
And
more
should-
of like a political ploy, it seemed like, in the Globe article. It's like, but the governor's supplemental already accounted for it because they're pulling money from 26 budget to fund 25, and they knew the deficit was coming. So that's why it was in the supplemental budget.
Yeah, just something more garbage to just throw out there to alarm everybody and get everybody upset about what's going on in our
Well,
government.
Yeah, pretty much.
yes and yes and no. I won't answer because honestly, right, health benefits for folks are really important, right? It's the bread and
They
butter.
yeah.
And to take it serious, but I think what was in the article that came from the retirees newsletter was that the Globe did not cover all of the discussion, did not get to the point that Charlie raised, is that there is funding in the supplemental budget and that they're working on it. So
Okay.
anyway, thanks for raising that GIC. It did come up. We dealt with it on Monday. Oh,
Yeah,
that was just,
can I go back to the charitable community service work? Does the council because I know where I work, and a lot of other companies do it too, like the National Day of Service, where I have a whole laundry list of stuff that I can choose to partake in, which I'm doing tomorrow. It's like I can do it on work time,
Yep.
whatever reason. Like, do you ever think about maybe putting together a whole a list of pre-approved things that someone wanted to do rather than kind of interpret
That's-
whether it's, you know,
that's a good
What-
suggestion, a really good suggestion. And the answer is, that's where I was getting to, like the David and the Area Agency on Aging group, that they do the brown bag because it's seniors receiving that. So it's a tie into kind of what they do. But I think to have something, if one wants to participate, I know I did a couple of years ago, if someone wants to give blood, the demand was so strong, so that automatically, but I would like to do it in a way that the staff can contribute to what they feel would be an organization that is within our region and that benefits our region.
Believe me, there's no shortage of them. I mean, knowing the one options that I had to choose from, whether it's cleaning up a middle school, like, you know, raking the leaves and getting, you know, spring cleaning at a
Yeah.
school in the area. It's little things like that, so that's,
I'll take those suggestions. I think that's a great suggestion about having like pre-approved participation, and that can put some boundaries in terms of, you know, 2 hours, you know,
Yeah.
or if it's a day. I think the challenge, again, since we're a small organization, a day out of
Perfect,
work
yeah.
can have implication, but
but
but-
not everything's on the same day, so you
Yeah.
need to spread it out, you know?
what I'll do is this, when we have our internal, when we meet with staff, probably at our retreat, when we come up with some definition, I'll report back to this committee, just, you know, where we are with it. It's
Okay.
important, right, that it's also just another way of how we have T-shirts that say OCPC cares with our logo on it. So like when there's the March Against Elder Abuse, we usually have about 10 staff members, and we wear our T-shirts supporting that event. It's here in Brockton and one in Plymouth. So thank you, Stephen. We'll get that list, and I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's it, correct, Megan? Oh, you're muted. You can't say anything. We gotta figure that one out. Maybe if you, well, I think we're at the end of the agenda anyway, correct? Got to number 1. Okay,
Well, we have to go to executive session for merit increases.
yes. So I will need a motion to go into executive session.
Lee
Mr. Chair,
Hartman,
Motion
I'll
so
move to
moved.
go into executive session.
Thank you, Lee. Sandy, was that you second?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
Your
so-
roll call, Mary?
Yep, Stephen
need?
Santisonio,
Accept?
Sandy Wright,
Yeah, except,
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
and Becky Coletta.
Yes.
And so what I am going to suggest, thank you, Megan. And I'm gonna actually keep Brenda and Charlie are on just because I'm gonna be sharing my screen. So we're just, in the past, Lee, you've always taken the reign along with Stephen just to say, we're not gonna go through individual. You trust my judgment, and technically, I think I messed up the process this year. We usually run through the personnel that makes recommendations to the finance that then makes recommendation to the council. But just because of timing where we were, I just do want to be able to share as I've done. Then we come out. So I have to go back out and then now chair if now the motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Lee
well,
Hartman
we have
moved
another,
to-
we have a, okay, we have
Oops.
one more. Is there any other business to attend to? Nope. Okay,
No.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
motion
So
so
moved.
moved.
Okay.
We'll figure it out between Lee and Sandy.
Yeah.
Okay, all
Yep.
right, just have the
Whatever,
ayes have it.
second.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See you at
you.
the next meeting.
Thank
Bye.
you for your help. Bye-bye.
Sure.